playing Saturdays with Alex. My name is AZ Axel, also known as Alex. I'm the tech support here at Out of the Park Developments, and welcome back to another Saturday stream. Today, I had been contemplating with Rich actually about this over the course of the week, and because of what we had done in our Tuesday stream with the Cincinnati Reds, that's our big Rich machine. If you're not watching that, I highly recommend watching that. Not because I'm in it, but just because it's actually really well informative, and you might learn a lot about the game and how to play single player mode, maybe just a little bit better than you already are playing it. But we did a huge amount of trades. We had 15 trades we wanted to go through. We only ended up going through about 9 of them. And it made me think a little bit more about exactly how rushed, how rushed that stream was. For almost 2 hours, we did nothing but talking about trades and then explaining the trade to chat, doing a poll about the trade with chat, and then pretty much just, either accepting the deal or not, which was a lot of fun. Granted, it was a ton of fun, guys. I hope you guys, anyone who watched that, enjoyed it. I thought it was a blast being able just to watch chat go crazy as we talked about different deals we could potentially make. And it got me thinking a little bit more about maybe we need to take a quick second while we're talking about trades in our big rich machine. Maybe we take some time out of our normal class schedule to talk about how best to do trades, because in the end, I've had so many people ask me, how do you find these trades? How do you go about, getting all this stuff made up, and how long does it take for you to come up with all this stuff? And the answer about how long it takes is you don't want to know. The answer about how I do it, we're going to talk about today. So if you guys are interested in learning how to become masters of the trade, is what we're going to call it for today. We're going to take a little deviant. I know we're probably going to do this often, but we're going to take a deviant from our college classes, which are our 100 series classes right now, which is the league development and league generation and league setup. We're going to take some time out to run through trades and how best to utilize the systems and setups we have already in OOTP, and being able to use those to your best advantage to get not a fleecing of the AI, but just so you understand why an AI would make a certain deal and wouldn't make a certain deal. It's not just give the AI whatever it requests. Oh, I know, it's going to be a lot of work. Yes, exactly. And hello, everybody. Welcome to the channel. I rock this, Magus, Gep, Dragonius, Kazcappy. I know there's probably other people in here who I haven't mentioned. Oh, Jake Silly. Yes, of course. Thank you guys for showing up and being here. I hope if you guys have any questions at all, we'll be answering all of those questions and trying to run through as much as possible. So, yeah. Make this work now isn't the secret. That actually is going to be one thing we're going to talk about. We will use that a ton. So we are going to be using the make this work now and ways to complete trades, but not force trades. Magus, we're not going to be forcing any trades. He mentioned that the force trade button is his best friend. That's mine if I want to have fun, like, not care about whether or not I'm legitimately playing it without having commissioner mode turn on and editing players and then forcing trades through. Anywho, let's continue, shall we? We're going to go ahead and actually utilize the Reds' big rich machine as our example of how we came up with all these trades. So I'm going to actually run through with you guys how I came up with these trades and kind of what you guys are going to need to watch out for and what we can do to make that work. I actually did hear back from a developer about that, Rock This. He said that it is a rare bug, but they are aware of it, and they've been trying to fix that for a while now. So I'm hoping that eventually down the road we will get something will be a patch for that, and that'll get patched out. But there has been something where, like on a rare occasion, the AI is not responding correctly. and it still won't accept it, but it displays it as being accepted. But then when you submit it, it won't accept it, and it's weird. Because he even commented that it's so rare for him. He sees it like once every single blue moon, but he admitted that it does happen. So that's another thing that we're probably working on fixing as well. There are a lot of those weird bugs in OTP because we're an indie developing company. We're not we're not an EA. We don't have the manpower and the millions of dollars to be able to just make a game and then spend an unrealistic amount of manpower to go hunting for stuff that shows up. I mean, not that we're not hunting for stuff. We are absolutely trying to fix every single bug. But at the same time, some bugs that are not game-breaking do not have the high priority that I wish they had. But at the same time, I understand why they don't have that high priority. So, us in technical support, we are always trying to make sure that the devs know exactly what major bugs are out there and what ones we're trying to fix. So it makes sense. It over time, we will get all of them. Trust me, we will get all of them. So, yeah. And Musha, welcome to the channel. Let's see. Gamba is going to force the 27 Yankees to trade Ruth and Garrick for $1 in cash. And then Gamba says he wouldn't do it. Instead of $1 in cash, they get some half-star guys I created earlier. Okay. There we go. Hey Noah. I don't let anybody. I mean, first of all, no one makes fun of me, because if they make fun of me, then that's a bad sign. Although, to be honest, there have been a few times where I've looked at myself and I've been like, I don't think I explained that well enough, or I think I did that incorrectly. So it's okay. I don't mind. You know what? If I can laugh at myself first before everybody else does, all right? If I see something that I think is hilarious, I'm always one to fix it, but I'm also the first person to laugh at myself and be like, haha, I'm so silly sometimes. I gotta get better. But at the same time, years and years of doing OOTP and even streaming. I've done years and years of streaming, so I'm not a grizzled veteran, but I'm not new to this, so I'll be okay. But yeah, man, welcome to the stream. Welcome to Science Saturday. Targonis, I want your 5-star guide, giving you a 3-star guide, a 4 and 4 1-star guys. That's 7 stars, right? Yeah, that's why. Wait, it won't work. Oh, you're not getting it to work. Oh, okay. And then of course, yeah, it has fewer bugs than Madden. I mean, our game isn't the size of Madden, but yeah, we do try to keep it as bug-free as possible, and the dev team does such a great job of keeping the game in such a really nice state. There are definitely those little issues where some people just can't get the game to run. Us in technical support, we're always trying to figure out why it just won't work on some machines, and most of the time it's unfortunately people's machines. It's not the game. It's something that's happening on their end, and we don't do remote support. We're not going to fly out to your guys' places and fix your computers for you. That's not what we do. Although that would be nice. That would be very nice if we could do that. All right, so I think we've had enough of an introduction now for this episode. That's 17 minutes of an introduction, which is just fine by me. So I'm hoping that you guys are all interested in learning how to be able to understand the systems we have in the game. Oh, you're in Phoenix. I forgot about that. Yeah, I can just walk to your house at that point. But I hope you guys are ready and willing and able to learn about the game in terms of how to do trades. Because I know a lot of people just try to throw guys up on the trade screen, they hope it works, and then if it doesn't work, they get upset and they move on to a different one, which is not a bad way of doing it. I mean, that's the true and tried way of doing OOTP, where it's just like, hey, I wonder if I traded this person, would they think it's a better trade? And you're going to go about doing your trades the same way that I'm going to kind of explain how to do it, but I'm going to talk about the background work that you need to put in and the systems and how to explain and understand the systems, so that way you guys can speed up the time it takes to be able to find these trades. Because, in all honesty, I found those 15 trades for our big rich machine in about 6 hours of time. Which you might be thinking, wow, you spent 6 hours just doing trades? Yes. When I was younger and I was just getting started with this game, it would take me about 2 days to do that many trades. So I've cut it down a ton because of the way that I know how to use the game and I'm not going to say I'm an expert at it because I'm not. I'm always learning new things. But it's good to be able to know exactly what you're doing when you're talking about trades and then understanding why a trade doesn't work or why a trade does work. All right? And I'm going to make a huge blanket statement. No, not a blanket statement. Disclaimer at the beginning of this entire explanation. There are going to be some trades that don't have great explanations as to why it works and why it doesn't work. All right? Most of the time, the AI will be more than happy to fleece you. Sometimes the AI is okay with you fleecing them, and I've never figured out why. For some, for most, I can figure out why. It's either money, it's, the control of a player, it's the development of the team, the state of a team at that moment. There's a lot of stuff that can be, that can influence how you, look at a trade and make it work. But there are always a few trades, like the White Sox deal we had in our Reds series, where they traded us Madrigal and Roberts for basically Mike Moustakas, which, in all seriousness, they were in a win-now beginning stage, which makes sense. They want to trade their almost ready prospects in AA for people who are going to push them into playoffs now because they want to win now. But the White Sox, as you can see, are 18-25. This was before we finished a couple more weeks. So this is even before we got to the trades. This is actually a couple weeks back, if I remember correctly. This is where we were at, end of May? Yeah, this is before we sent all of this little period of time up to the draft. So I don't even know if the White Sox got any better since the last time we did that simulation. But when you were looking at that trade when it happened, which was back at the beginning of the season, the White Sox were in basically the beginnings of a win-now mode. The James Shields versus Tatis Jr. trade. There are a lot of trades in real life that are complete fleecings when you look back at them, but in that one moment, you're thinking, okay, the White Sox were in, again, win-now mode, and, they wanted to basically get, someone who would be able to anchor their rotation. They wanted someone who could anchor their rotation, so they needed to. They really needed to make a big deal and be able to grab someone that they thought was going to complete their starting rotation. And unfortunately, not only did James Shields not do that, even though he had 4 years of, and technically it was progressively getting worse. He was, 32, 33, 34. But you're talking about someone who had been through Kansas City and San Diego, two very pitcher-friendly ballparks, and had gotten, low 3.0 ERAs with a 4.6 WAR. I mean, there's a lot of people that probably thought it was a decent deal, even though his last year in San Diego had been pretty poor. And his year in San Diego that year was really poor. But I don't think anybody expected him to go 4-12 of a 6.77 ERA. So, and also at that stage, Tatis was not considered the high-end prospect that he is today. He excelled extensively in San Diego versus Chicago. I don't even know if he would have. I mean, you talk about Tatis Jr. being a White Sox person. Does he surpass Madrigal, Anderson, Moncada if those people are in the way? If 3 years ago, or even 2 years ago, he starts trying to make it into the big leagues, but those big name prospects are already there, does Tatis Jr. get a shot until now? Because the development of some of the White Sox players was already blocking his way, and they didn't think he would turn into the elite superstar that he could potentially turn into today when they made this deal. So a lot of people, there's a lot of people who are going to look back on trades and just wonder why on earth it happened. The D-backs trade regarding Shelby Miller, I think, is going to be the one that everybody talks about. Even though I always loved Shelby Miller, I thought he was really good, but I think he experimented too much with his pitches, and that ruined his career. I think he did too much. But at the same time, that's the one everyone's going to talk about. That's the trade everyone's going to talk about in terms of being fleeced. The D-back giving up multiple first-round prospects for basically a number 2 starting pitcher. and it just blowing up in their faces and not doing well and really being an issue. Um, you know, thankfully, I wouldn't say that the Atlanta Braves have had the best return on that trade, but they obviously got rid of a really interesting pitcher in Miller, who is still playing today. By the way, Miller is still operational. Right now, he's technically in a single A plus team, but for most people's expectations, Miller was supposed to start in Texas this year. He was actually supposed to be, I think, one of their starting rotation pitchers. So that would have been interesting. That would have been very interesting. But yeah, if anyone doesn't know about this deal, this is the deal for it was Miller and Gabe Spear for Aaron Blair, Dansby Swanson, and Ender Inciarte. Blair being a first-round draft pick, Swanson a first-round draft pick, and Inciarte was I think he was I don't think he was a first-round draft pick. I think he was much later. International free agent, so he wasn't even a draft pick, but still, he's still pretty good. He's won multiple Gold Gloves. He's a very good fielding center fielder. I wouldn't say the hitting has exactly done that well, but yeah, he's definitely been the best person out of that trade. So, yeah. Musha says that Tatis probably wouldn't have gotten a shot. I think he would have been traded in a different trade as well. I think maybe they would have gotten more out of him if they had waited and seen him develop a little bit more. And this is in regards to Tatis Jr. Maybe if they had waited a little bit longer, they get more results for him in that trade, and that would have been better. But we'll never know about that, unfortunately. Moonarch says, doesn't also depend on your minor league system and OTP game. Like, you could get back a bad prospect and nurture him well enough that he gets better. Yes, absolutely. You could find somebody on a different team that that team does not value, but your scout does. And then it's basically it's kind of basically your scout versus their scout. Which one values the player more? And if you can totally steal some prospects. You can take chances on prospects that you believe are better than they actually are. That's one of the things that I was working with our short list. I had a bunch of prospects that I thought were better than most people would have expected them to be. These are all people who are either really, really good or I think are better than most people expect them to be, and they have chances to be the surprise prospects that you want to get. Technically, and I'll say this right off the bat, OOTP doesn't have as many surprise prospects as real-life baseball does, because real-life baseball doesn't have as clear a picture as OOTP does in terms of how good a player is. The statistics, will back the ratings, or the ratings will adjust to the statistics. As people progress, it's pretty easy to tell how good someone is. In baseball, someone changes the way that they swing ever so slightly, and suddenly they're a star better prospect. Suddenly a change on how someone handles their body when they swing. Like, I know Acuna, I think, has been changing his swing occasionally to get better and better. And this game, OTP doesn't really take that into effect. There are some ways that it does. People will get random, developments that are better. There's that whole entire randomness effect of OTP where some prospects will fail and some prospects will suddenly become a whole lot better. There have been a couple of games where I've seen somebody absolutely turn into just a ridiculous prospect out of nowhere, develop a whole bunch of additional contact, a little bit extra power, and just flat out loud just rock my world in terms of being a really good prospect. And I build around that guy, and it's great, but those are so few and far between. It's hard to say that that's going to guarantee happen to anybody. So you got to be careful with trying to expect that to happen, because over the course of 20 years, that may happen once or maybe twice. I think for us in our Rich's Red series, actually, Alzolay would be the one person that would be doing that right now. Albert Alzolay has been so much better than 3 stars. I'm highly anticipating that he turns into a 4-star prospect down the road by the All-Star game. If he keeps this up, he has potential to turn into something really nice and be a huge, huge pickup for us. So technically, yes, it does happen, but you're not going to see the, Paul Goldschmidt kind of development, or even the Nolan Arenado kind of development, where it's like, wow, they're a mid-tier, prospect, and then suddenly they're superstar caliber. That's hard to do. So I guess the one thing I can advise is don't expect that. Don't expect to get a whole bunch of just perfect people just because, you put a bunch of money into your, player development budget and you've got the good coaches. Don't expect success. Anticipate it, but don't expect it, because then your expectations are not going to get met, and then you're going to get disappointed. All right? All right, I'm talking too much. We got to get started. Let's see. Chat. Prospect potentials are not locked in the game, Moonarch. You can have players develop over time. They will get better or worse. That's the whole entire randomness effect of the game, is that we do try to make sure that players could get better or worse depending upon how they perform. So there is a set of, potential Paul Goldschmidt kind of players where they can suddenly get better. And then there's also people like Shelby Millers who could, fall off the edge of a cliff all of a sudden just because they changed something in their pitching windup, or how they grip the ball, or one of their pitches just falls off completely and they're hittable, and then they're not that good and they get dumped out of the league in 2 or 3 years. It happens. It totally happens. But yeah, there are ways that prospects' potential can change during the course of even one season. It can change a lot. Yeah, Tampa Bay always wins most of the trades they're involved with. They're very shrewd. Tampa Bay is very shrewd. They know exactly when to sell their players and who to pick up to increase. They are very good at that. We said that at the time the D-backs overpaid in terms of their trade. Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of people would prefer the Tatis trade when it happened. I think a lot of people thought it was okay, mostly because they didn't expect Tatis to be so good. So, yeah. And the Cardinals got Howard briefly for him. That's true. Yeah, the Cardinals did get Jason Hayward. Sorry, not Howard. Hayward. And then I'm glad they got rid of him for the Cubbies. Well, actually, sorry, he was a free agent, right? Yeah, he just left his own accord. He just left. So, yeah. I had a player that OSA had a 70 overall, 11th best prospect in the game. My scout had him as a 40. I traded him right quick to capitalize on the overrating. Exactly. That's a great way to be able to do that. Yeah, if you see that your scout really doesn't like somebody, and you trust your scout, that is when you need to make moves. And that's what we actually did with some of our prospects. That's actually why in our stream we traded away Hunter Green. And I know a lot of people are gonna be like, "Wow, you traded away your top tier prospect?" Like we actually did that. Yes, we traded away number 19 overall prospect Hunter Green, and the reason why is because our head scout thinks that his hitting ability is now officially gone. So Hunter Green is no longer a two-way player, in my opinion. Our scout does not believe he's a two-way player. That's still decent hitting, but that's not enough to be a two-way player anymore. And we have, what is this now? Is this high? Yeah, very high scouting accuracy on Hunter Green. So we think that he could develop into maybe a decent number 2, number 3 starting pitcher at best. So he's not the ace anymore. He's not the ace starting pitcher. I know OSA is going to give him a little bit more. Once you start getting up into the blues and the light greens, maybe you start thinking about ace potential again, and they think he hits better, but he's not 19 overall. I would look at this and go, you're probably like 100. You're probably like a top 100 prospect, probably somewhere in the 80 to 100 range. But there's better people out there you can grab. There's better prospects out there you can grab. We just drafted a couple people who I think are actually going to be better than this potentially. So, yeah, if you feel like as if your OSA to head scout ratings aren't exactly meeting up and they're not quite there, do not feel bad. Do not feel bad about taking a flying chance on getting rid of somebody when their value is really high, instead of waiting until they fall off and then they hit that average that your head scout thought they'd hit, and then you get nothing for them, okay? Or at least you don't get the return that you wanted for it, all right? We got Shohei Ohtani for Green. I think that's a great upgrade right there. That's fantastic. So, yeah, we made a good choice. I hope we made a good choice. We don't know. The Angels may develop Hunter Green into the superstar he was always supposed to be. I don't know. But I think we did a good choice. He was also a little bit unhappy with the way we were handling him in the minors. He wasn't performing well. He wasn't being, he wasn't being upgraded to the, minor league systems he wanted to be playing in. So he was a little bit distraught with how he was doing. And even though he's popular as a player, it was a good deal for us in the long haul. So, yeah. A lot of my fantasy baseball trades have been dictated by who Tampa Bay traded for and who they traded away. Actually, that is very true, Moonarch. I have had that happen a lot where I basically am monitoring what the Rays do because they almost always have the players I'm most interested in, and who they trade and why they trade and who they get back are always great indications of how well the league is doing for trades and what is probably most valuable right now. They are always a great way to kind of understand and gauge what the league is looking for, because they almost are always at the center of the really interesting, even Steven deals. I've never seen the Rays get fleeced in OOTP. I don't know why, but I've never seen that happen. Unless maybe you consider our trade for Adames a fleecing, but I don't think that's a fleecing anymore. I don't think that is. All right, anywho, let's get started, guys. We got to get started. Otherwise, we're going to be talking about stuff all day, and we're not going to get to the actual meat and potatoes of today's stream. So, the first thing that we need to talk about in order to be able to understand how trading works in OOTP is understanding your ball club. And I know I've probably said this before, and we've probably talked about this before, but you really need to know exactly your strengths, your weaknesses, and that is going to help you gauge what options you have as a GM on who you can trade, why you can trade them, and why it would be okay to do trades. Because not only is this going to help you understand who you can get rid of, but it's also going to make you understand what you need as a team. So this is always the first thing that I do, is I take a really hard look at the roster, the pitching rotation, the batting lineups. I go through and I'm like, all right, we already know that Severino ends up getting injured, so this is a bit before we ended up getting his injury down. But the minute that Severino got injured, the depth of our starting rotation took a huge hit, and that was what triggered me to be able to make the move and tell Rich, we're trading now. Because the minute that depth was gone, the minute that Francis Martez, and of course all of our injured players, which was at that point, that was Cabrera, we ended up adding on to that list somebody else. Castillo ends up getting added to that list eventually as well for a small injury. But when you have so much of your depth being taken down by injury, I knew that we needed to be able to make a move at that point because we didn't have the replacements I wanted to be able to make the team successful. We could compete, but we wouldn't be successful. We would compete and lose, and I knew that. So when you look at your team, look for weaknesses, look for areas that you need to improve. You also need to look at the time frame that you're wanting to do these trades in. We chose to do a trade at the beginning of the season because we wanted to develop the team at the beginning of the season when everybody was at a clean slate. We wanted to be able to bring people onto our team that were oddball out players. That's why we picked up people like Adames. We picked up Adames because the Rays didn't value him as much, and they didn't have room for him as much. So we picked him up pretty much for a 3-star prospect who might develop into something nice and also might not develop into something nice. So for the trade with Adames, that was a good deal for us. It was a 1-for-1 exchange with Jose Israel Garcia, who has done pretty well in, I'm guessing that's Single A. Yeah, did well in Single A, has not done well in Single A+. Interesting prospect here for Garcia. But we did that deal because we knew that if Adames has a good season in Tampa Bay, his value goes up. They won't trade him. We need to trade for him now because our head scout values him. OSA does not. If we get this version of Adames, which is the 3.5-star version of Adames, that's good. He's also a high leader. He's high adaptability and high work ethic, which means we can train him a new position very quickly. We can also put him where we want him to be put, and he will adapt to that position. He also leads our team and is a good way for us to keep the chemistry in the clubhouse at a happy place instead. We also know that he's young. He's only 24 years of age. He has still time to be able to finish development and be able to work through his kinks and get himself fully up to where we think he can be as a player. So that trade was more about the timing and the requirements for us to fill a hole because we didn't have a shortstop at that point. We had Iglesias, who we then shipped over to the Cubbies because we wanted to pick up Alzolay, I believe, which was a great deal looking back on that. We ended up picking up Alzolay, De La Cruz, Little, and Brennan Davis. And we ended up giving them Michael Lorenzen, Jose Iglesias, Betancourt, and Ciani, which is still a good deal even though Ciani's having a really good single-A season. Wow. That might be something I come back to regret. Anywho, we ended up trading away Iglesias because we could acquire Adames. So a lot of trades you're going to do, you might need a plot down the road. You might need to think about, okay, if I get rid of this person, I need a backup. I need to be able to fill that position. If you're going to trade starting players, I think I've talked about this on a OOTP Now podcast with Rich once. Yeah, that's the problem with Ciani is I think he'll strike out way too often because of that avoid K. But yeah, I think I talked about this on Rich's OOTP Now podcast once. If you're going to trade any of your starting players, you need a backup. You need someone to fill that hole immediately. Do not ever trade somebody who's a starter and you don't have someone to fill that hole. All right? If you don't have anybody to fill that vacancy in that position, don't ever make a deal involving the starter of a position that does not have a backup. Because that's the last thing you want to do is put your team in a position where there's nobody good to fill a spot that you just vacated. And then you're stuck trying to find somebody as quickly as possible. That's where you make mistakes, all right? So, with trades, take your time. Absolutely take your time. Understand your team. Understand your depth. Understand why you're going to get rid of somebody and why that would be an okay thing. Just don't run into it. That's Mike Ciani, which is also Michael Ciani. Yes. Yeah. So that was Mike Ciani we were talking about. That's a Reds prospect. He's 20 years of age, 6'1". He's technically a right fielder. He could be pretty decent, but again, we're talking about, this 30 over 35 avoid Ks. He could be a pretty decent hitter. He's got some good gap power, but that avoid K is really low, and the contact is really low. So I didn't have a problem getting rid of him personally. I think he'll be just fine in the Cubs system, but I don't think he'll develop into anything that I'm going to regret down the road. Hopefully. So, yeah. You have him on the Giants in 2024. Oh, awesome. Yeah, he's not bad. He reminds me a little bit of... Oh, who would he remind me of? Almost like an Austin Hayes, I think, which we have Austin Hayes as well. We have Austin Hayes down in AAA, but he's a little bit better on the avoid Ks, and he's better on contact. So we prefer Hayes over Ciani, personally. So we also had backup. So that's a good example of where we had backup to get rid of someone like a Ciani, who would be maybe a AA player, maybe even a AAA player by the end of the season. We already have people who are ready to go right now. We don't need Ciani. We don't need some of these outfield prospects we have because we already have acquired people to fill those roles and those, development stages. So we have extras. So understanding where your team has additional extras and the depth to be able to make a move is important. And that's where we're going to get to our first subject of matter, and that's going to be Thairo Estrada. So I know a lot of you probably noticed that on our Rich's machine, the Big Rich machine. I keep saying that wrong. But on the Big Rich machine, we basically guaranteed to everybody that Estrada was going to be traded. And that's something that was pretty much guaranteed from the get-go in terms of what we were going to be able to do with our team. So, and we'll talk a little bit about why that happened. But this goes back a little bit to, where you need to be observing your team. We understand that, we have a really good backup in Estrada, he should be a starter. When you have this good of a starting second base slash shortstop kind of player, this kid could start almost on any squad at second base or at even technically a little bit of third base, even shortstop. He can play any position well, and he can hit very well. He's an above average hitter at 105 on the OPS plus. He's got a 0.7 WAR, and this is before we traded him. And you got to love that avoid Ks. That's the best part, is that he's not going to strike out. He's going to put the ball in play. He's not going to hit home runs, but you don't want him to hit home runs. He's a utility infielder who hits like a starter. So he's great. He's got decent enough speed. He's just basically I would say he's the most average starter you could get, but that's what everyone kind of wants. You need someone who can just get on base and play his position well and have the speed to be able to, if he's a bench player, come off the bench and do a pinch run situation. This is a perfect example of somebody who's great for your ball club. He also has high intelligence and low greed. So he's not going to cost you a lot of money, and he's real intelligent with the game. He knows how to develop himself well. So, yeah. I mean, it wouldn't be a bad thing. I would say that a lineup of Estradas would not win you ball games, but a lineup of Estradas would get you a lot of trading options. So you'd still be okay with that. You'd still be okay with the idea that, hey, if everyone was an Estrada, at least your team would be average. You wouldn't be winning a lot of ball games. I'd probably say you'd be below average, technically. But, if you paired up with a good pitching staff, you could probably do a good job. Yeah. We haven't talked about our trade settings yet, Big C. We haven't talked about our trade settings yet. We're just talking about examples and kind of getting started, how to best begin to work with a lineup of 9 Ricky Hendersons. Oh, gosh. I think the problem with a lineup of 9 Ricky Hendersons is that the games would be so long. You would never be able to play a game because you'd be doing so much base running and so much hitting over the course of a game. You'd win like 7-5 and have like 20 stolen bases, like 15 singles, a couple of walks, no strikeouts, lots of balls put into play. It would be so tiring. It'd be fun, but it would be so tiring. So I don't know. That sounds like a challenge for someone to do, but I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I don't know. So yeah. So we want to basically understand our team inside and out. I'm gonna say Rocktus is already doing that, breaking the single season steals record. Like that's literally what Rocktus is doing on his channel. So if you guys are interested in watching someone break a single season steals record or attempt to, Rocktus is your man for that one right there. But anywho, understanding your team, understanding your strengths, your weaknesses, your depth. Understand who is available to be traded. When I went through and started working on trades, I wanted to know, all right, who am I okay with getting rid of? Estrada was number 1. And I found that out very quickly that teams loved Estrada. They would give me a steal for Estrada because they like his defense, they like his speed, they like his hitting ability. So we'll talk a little bit later about how to find those Estradas in your team, the people that the AI loves. We'll talk about how to do that. But I was okay with getting rid of Estrada. I was okay with getting rid of Pilar. I was interested in getting rid of Betts, but I knew that our chances of getting rid of Betts was very, very slim because of his contract and because he's a rental. He's basically a 1-year rental for us, which is fine. We're going to take him, use his 1-year rental for the $20 million, make him be our offensive juggernaut, and then at the end of the season, we're going to let him go and get the qualifying offer, and that's all that's going to happen. And that's fine. We're fine with that. But I also was looking into other position players and people and thinking, okay, is there any starting pitchers I'm okay with getting rid of? The answer was no. There really is nobody in the starting rotation that I felt was a liability or someone I want to get rid of. We already got rid of DeSclafani. That was our big liability person from earlier, and we got rid of him already. So we had already gotten rid of most of the people that we didn't like from our starting squad. We had been cutting those people out over time. But then I looked at our relief pit situation, and I was like, all right, we could get rid of Hamilton potentially. He's good, we've got a lot of good relief pitchers coming up. So we have depth in our relief pitching area. I mean, you're talking about we have Feltman in AAA. We've got, of course, Ian Hamilton. Zach Pop is in AAA. We have Tyler J down in Single A right now. Technically, we have Steven Valenez and Steven Nogasek in AAA. Ryan Hendricks is in AAA. We have Zach Houston just got called up from AAA. So there's a lot of people that we really, really liked with our relief, and that helped us out a ton in being able to be flexible about our bullpen, which allowed us to then trade Hergit because we had the backup to be able to get rid of Jimmy Hergit, who is currently in AAA. So Hergit is actually a pretty decent relief pitcher if you look at his OSA ratings, but he's extreme fly ball. He's a side-arming extreme fly baller who throws 93 to 95. He has high greed, and he wants to play in the majors, and he has not performed that well in AAA, even though he's done very, very well in the majors. So there was a situation in which Hergit was kind of the odd man out. He wasn't going to get another shot in the majors unless we absolutely had a couple injuries happen and he was the next best person. He's already 26 years of age. He's only right-handed throwing, so we already have a bunch of right-handed throwing relief pitchers. It's not that hard to get rid of someone like him. So Hergit was on our list to get rid of. If I could have gotten rid of Raisdell Iglesias, I would have, but his contract is way too expensive. Hendricks was someone else I wanted to get rid of. I was optionally okay with getting rid of Hendricks. The trade offer, though, never came around. It wasn't an option for us, so Hendricks has remained on the squad in the updated version of our simulation once we simulated to the trade date. So, but again, we had Durbin Feltman. We had Feltman in AAA. He hasn't done that well in AAA, which I'm kind of surprised since he's got really good stuff. But I'm just hoping that the control, I think the control is too low right now, which is weird saying the control is too low at 50 of 60. But if the minute that Feltman turns it around and starts to drop that ERA down, he's coming up to the majors and he will be playing with us very, very soon. So watch out for Feltman, guys. He'll be coming to our big league squad the moment that I get an open roster spot. But I also looked at other people on our list of people that could potentially be traded. Yusniel Diaz came to mind. If we were going to make an outfield move, I wanted to be able to have some of our outfield depth be an option for us to trade. So Yusniel Diaz was another person on my mind that I thought we could get rid of. He had not been doing so well in AAA, so he wasn't exactly making waves the way that I wanted him to. He was someone that I thought would be an option to trade at that point. Then, of course, there's a whole bunch of people that we have as, just extra depth on our squads. And some of them I thought would be interesting trade prospects. Siri was another person I thought we could trade. I don't think we ended up trading Jose Siri, though. I think we ended up keeping him. So, again, all that just to say, know your team inside and out. Know where your depth is, know where your ability to pull from is, and what you can get rid of to get something to fill a weakness. So you need to know your strengths, so you can then trade from the depths of your strengths or from the starters of your strength, because you've got someone to replace that starter with, and then fill voids. Fill your vulnerabilities. Fill the abilities that you have no one to cover. So if you have a weakness at shortstop, get a shortstop. That's a hard position to fill. It might be better to fill that from an internal situation, but if you can get someone from a trade situation, go for it. For us, we needed a starting pitcher, we needed an outfielder, and we needed a third baseman / first baseman. And so we made trades that got us those kinds of players. And we're hopeful that those trades don't come back to bite us with some of the players that we got rid of becoming better. But at the same time, you have to make those sacrifices sometimes to be able to get someone back that will increase the performance of the team that you're currently developing, especially if you're going to be in win now mode. So don't be afraid to take risks, but take educated and managed risks. Don't just start throwing people's names out there because, hey, I could trade this person. I could totally do it. Don't think I couldn't do this. Make educated decisions about your trades. All right. Let's talk a little bit about how the AI how to understand what to target in your trade options. So you might be having a situation in which you need a shortstop or an outfielder or a starting pitcher. Now, the first thing I want to say, some positions are much easier to acquire than others. I'm pretty sure everyone would agree with me on that, okay? If you need a shortstop position or a center fielder or a starting pitcher, those people are going to be very hard to acquire, all right? Those people are the ones that are probably never going to be on a trading block unless, they're really not that good. I mean, you can probably find some Sin-Shu-Chus on the list. Not really any more of an outfielder, more of a DH now. Matt McGill is on the list, for us at least. For you it'll be a bit different. You're probably never going to see that amazing starting pitcher or that amazing center fielder or, outfielder that you've been looking at and dreaming about for years. They're probably not going to show up on this list because they're probably locked for life. So, you gotta be careful. Really, Baez is at the trade deadline? Ooh. Oh, 2022. Okay. See, that is also something to watch out for because players can begin to decline or develop better over time. So you don't want to grab somebody that has big name, a big name type player if they're not doing well. You can always try to make a project out of a player and develop them over again and try to reinvent them or, give them a new environment to perform better. And no worries, N51. That's fine. That's fine. I'm quick on the fly. I can change my stories around real fast. But you want to be careful when you do any of those big name kind of guys because not only are they going to demand for a lot of money when they hit arbitration or free agency, but most of the time if they're not developing well, there are probably underlying personality problems that are driving that. For Baez, I don't remember if Baez is a disruptive person in clubhouses. I don't think he is. Oh, no, yeah, he is. So the problem with Baez, and the reason why he's most likely on the trading block, is if his contact has gone down from 55 over 55, if that's gone down at all, if the contact's gone down, the fielding is starting to drop down, and he's still personality class of selfish, high greed, low leadership, low loyalty, and low work ethic, he's not going to develop. He's going to ask a lot of money, and he's not going to be good for your ball club, chemistry-wise. So the Cubbies are probably going to be more than happy to get rid of this kid, even though he's probably still like 29 years old. He's, yes, personalities can change over time. You can have the news reports of a person who goes to, he goes to like, I think there's a couple different ways they state it. One is they see a psychiatrist to deal with their, anger issues, and then their personality actually gets changed. They actually come back to the, spring training much calmer and more in charge. There's different articles that we write about the game where we actually will say that a player has changed their personality slightly, and they either lose, they will lose their personality class or they will gain a personality class depending upon what happens. So, yes, they can change personalities. Oh, he's making $18 million. Yeah, that's your biggest problem, is that the Cubbies extended him for 2 years, at least 2 years, and they don't want to pay, probably an average second base shortstop person now $18 million. That's too much. So there's your problem right there. A lot of people would take a look at Javi Baez on the trade block and be like, instant buy. You get Baez. You absolutely get Baez. And I would say, maybe not. Maybe you don't. Maybe you need to look at his contract, and this is actually going to tie in perfectly into our next section, which is about how to find the trade prospects and the trade people to get. Baez is a perfect example. If you see Baez on the trade options and you see him as an available player, there is that wonderful excitement of, oh my gosh, I know this person. I am totally going to acquire this person. And then you get them, and down the road you realize how much you're paying them, and they're not even the person that you thought they were. They've already dropped off a little bit, and they're going to continue to drop off unless you can turn it around. And you got to be careful with that. So when you look for people, to trade for, especially if you do something like a shop now, if you do a shop now, always look at the contracts. When you do a shop a player option, so for example, we'll just go ahead and throw out there Estrada really fast. So for us, when I got started, I wanted to take a look and see what I could get for some of the backup bench players we have. Theodore Estrada was one of them. So one of the first things that I did, and we'll talk about shop a player later, but I did shop Estrada, okay? We shopped Estrada around. I wanted to see what was out there. I wanted to see what people were going to give us, and this is the kind of results you're going to get. Now, I've got it set to do just prospects right now, so let me actually turn that back on. Let's turn everything else back on for a second. Now, you might see people that you like. You know, Robbie Ray comes to mind. That's a good starting pitching prospect right there. Even though he's having a terrible season, he's still pretty decent. You're talking about, you know, you've got, who else do we have? You know, you got Cease and Giolito and Kopech. You've got Addison Russell. I'm not going to do that kind of deal. But you got Brad Hand. Here you go. Here's a perfect example of why you got to be careful. Now, some people scan just the potentials and the overall ratings, okay? They shop a player, and they're scanning. They stop on Giolito. That's a good deal right there. You know, blah, 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 blah. Tristan Beck, good deal right there. Luis Giolito, Brad Hand's a good deal. You know, Manning and Boyd are good deals. You know, there's Osuna, good deal. Josh James. But you need to take a second and look deeper than just the potentials and overalls, all right? That sounds like clothes, but you know what I mean. Don't just look at the ratings of a player. And I know probably all of you are going, well, no, duh, of course we're going to look at all this stuff. We have to look at the money and, you know, how well they're performing. But you also need to look at the personality of the person you're going to be acquiring, how many years are left on that contract, and whether or not they're a relief pitcher. Because, look, you can get a relief pitcher like Ozuna, especially Ozuna. Any overpaid relief pitcher you can get without having to give them too much. And the reason why is because they're overpaid and they're going to get worse and worse as they get older. And this game, OOTP, it is not hard to get good relief pitchers, okay? Relief pitchers will come at you from all over the place, all right? You don't have to trade for good relief pitchers unless there's just nothing available and you don't have anything coming up through your minors and you desperately need one or two more relief pitchers who are solid. Then sure, go for it. But if you're doing your managing correctly, not that it's the correct way, but if you're doing a good job, you should always be having, you know, 4-star, 5-star relief pitchers ready to go, or at least in AA/AAA, even single A. Those are good people to have, okay? And you can always find those people pretty easily. The harder people to find are the hitters. Nate Lowe being one person right there, you know, but he only has 1 year left of his contract. I think that's 1 year of before arbitration hits, and he's a first baseman, and he doesn't field well. So that's kind of a no. Joey Bart is a very interesting prospect. We almost traded for him personally. But here's the problem. He's 4.5 stars for OSA. Our head scout thinks he's only 3 stars. All right? So also look at the differences between OSA ratings and your head scout. If you trust your head scout, go with head scout's ratings versus OSA's because that's going to be much better for you. Yes, Kella is a very interesting trade option. He's 27. He is a closer. He's 4.5 stars. He's 4 stars out of 4.5 stars. Our head scout likes him. OSA does not like him as much. And currently, he's at negative 0.1 WAR for the season because the homers have gone a little bit up through the roof right now. And to be honest, that $4 million scares me, even just for Kella. That scares me a little bit because that means at the end of the year, his arbitration estimate is going to be $4.4 million. I don't even know if he's expected to have another 2 years of arbitration or if he's expected to have just 1 more year of arbitration. Killa has one more year of arbitration. It probably will be more than 4.4 million for 2021, and then he's probably going to ask for like 8 million plus. So the problem is if you get someone like a Kella, he's probably going to be on your squad for a year or two, and then you're probably going to get rid of him. Because the minute that he has one bad season, his ratings are going to drop down to probably 4 stars or 3.5 stars, and then he's not worth more than 3 million at max. So relief pitchers are very, very rough if you're going to put all of your investment into relief pitchers and pay them well. If you're going to pay relief pitchers, they're going to have more chances to fail and drop out of your bullpen much faster than a hitter or even a starting pitcher will, okay? So that's why I advise not to go all in on relief pitchers, because they are more likely to cause you pain and suffering down the road, all right? When you're looking at the shop a player trade options, you're looking for people who have long-term deals at low contracts. That's what you're basically looking for, because you can always find someone like an Ozuna. Let's go back to the Ozuna trade. So Roberto Ozuna, 4 stars out of 4.5, but he's got $9 million and only 1 year left. So even though he's performing well, and he's only 25, he's potentially going to be a very good relief pitcher for the Astros for the season. He'd be good on most people's ball clubs, but he does have some problems in his personality. He lacks drive, and he's expensive, and he's going to expect more money too. He's expecting $10.5 million in arbitration, and I don't know very many closers that are worth $10.5 million unless their names are Mariano Rivera or maybe Billy Wagner. There aren't that many relief pitchers that are worth that much. Basically, to summarize relief pitchers, there are many exactly. I was just about to say there are way too many Kenley Jensens in MLB right now, where they have one bad year, and suddenly everybody questions whether or not they're actually even, good enough. Is it Jansen? Jansen, I think, right? Yeah. You have one bad year, 3.71 ERA, 33 saves, but the homers and the walks are not great. Even though he had good strikeout numbers, Jansen is now 3 stars. 3 stars, guys. This closer used to be a 5-star dominant closer. Like if you go back to 2019 or 2020, if you go back to OOTP 20, my apologies, Kenley Jansen is by far one of the best closers in the game. You have one bad year, and this is what OOTP does to you. All right? So I'm not saying that'll happen to your relief pitchers if they have one bad year. I wouldn't even say that this is a bad year for Jansen. He had a pretty decent year of a 0.8 WAR, but it's nowhere close to his 2.6, 2.5 that he's been having for years in the past. So yeah, and this is where, if you offered anything to the Dodgers for Jansen, they would say yes, if they could get rid of his $18 million, all right? So don't buy into people like Jansen. And I'm not saying that because it's a Dodger and I like to harp on the Dodgers, but this is a perfect example of what can go wrong if you overpay a relief pitcher or you trade for a relief pitcher and they don't perform. Suddenly you're stuck with this, all right? Another example is actually on our Reds squad. If you go to our AAA team, I talked about him before, Raisel Iglesias. This is Raisel Iglesias, guys. He was a pretty prominent closer for the Reds for a couple of years. He's not as good as Jansen, but he had some pretty good prospects. But he has one bad year where his, the walks and home runs don't improve. The strikeouts improve, but his BABIP, the ability to hit off of him got so bad that the ERA is at 4.16. He had 12 losses in 2019, guys. 12 losses. And that dropped his rating down to 2 stars. I think he was a 3-star at the beginning of our whole entire thing. Yeah, 3.5 stars. And that movement is so bad now. His homer rate is now 3.2. It's doubled. And he is being given $9 million to play in AAA right now. Okay? No, we waived Iglesias. Iglesias has been waived and designated for assignment, and nobody wanted him because the AI will not value overpaid relief pitchers who don't have good enough ratings. Bad stats can lead to lower star ratings. Now, technically, the game won't continue to do that over and over again unless the player is aging and getting to, like, upper 30s, at which point they just slowly degrade over time. Most people will not continue to go worse and worse and worse as they get, if they're a youngster. So, for example, Jansen, yes, could absolutely rebound. Yes. That is an absolute yes. You could suddenly see that, the performance of the player increases, the statistics back it up, and eventually the ratings will show that resurgency. I don't think Jansen will ever become the dominant pitcher he was 2 years ago. I don't think that's likely to happen in OOTP 21, but there is a shot that he could be an excellent quality middle reliever for a team, but I don't think you want to pay a middle relief pitcher $18 million. So there's also that to take into consideration, is how much of an investment are you willing to pay? For the Dodgers, I would have them, if I had to acquire Jansen, I would require them to take on probably anywhere between 50 to 75% of his contract. That's just what I would want. So, for example, let's just use that as an example really fast. No, we're not going to get Verdugo. Jansen, there you are. So, if you wanted to make it work right now, they would literally swap Jansen for Iglesias. Okay? They would swap, and we would have to eat all of Jansen's contract. We would eat all his contract, but we could actually get a reliable enough, relief pitcher that we could actually use over Iglesias. And maybe his movement goes back up and he turns into a 4-star, maybe 3.5-star relief pitcher. And then you could make the excuse that maybe he's worth the money because you gave away, we gave Iglesias, who's a $9 million person. So we're really only paying Jansen $9 million, because we are not paying Iglesias $9 million. And then maybe the next year he's only $11 million. Maybe that's okay. But if you're really going to do that, you got to have them retain some stuff, okay? And you can see it's going down, and it's not even possible. So they won't retain more than probably 30% of Jansen's contract. The minute you try going upwards of where I would prefer the Dodgers to keep his contract, you're talking about our top-tier people. They would want someone really top-tier to retain, 50% of Jansen. If I remove Iglesias, the money comes off the table. Now they're willing to talk about it more because it's a money dump. Okay? So now we're going to talk a little bit about how to find players. And this is all going to come back to how do you locate players to trade for? Because in the end, you have to scour lists to be able to find players that you're interested in trading for and are a good fit for your team. The AI never struggles to keep contract money. Well, I mean, some of them are more than willing to keep money because that's better for them to drop money and then sign somebody else or acquire someone else, especially for the high-end teams like the Dodgers, and technically even for really low-ball teams that need every single ounce of money they can possibly get. When you're talking about a team like the Dodgers, who have a $211 million player payroll, they've got a lot of budget, but they have a lot of money guaranteed to players. And they want to open up space to acquire new players because the Dodgers, the AI, is already looking at the upcoming free agents list. Okay, guys? And here's why. That's why. Every single team is looking at the upcoming free agency list. The AI is already looking at the upcoming free agency list and knowing that there's going to be Mookie Betts available unless he's signed to an extension. He is a free agent. So everybody is planning to make a run at Mookie Betts. And if your team doesn't have money right now, if like for the Dodgers, they don't have money. They would not be able to get Mookie Betts right now. And they're going to be losing Justin Turner at the end of the year, and that might put them at the beginning talks for Betts at around $31 million free agency money. But they really could use Jansen off of their salary listings, because if they keep Jansen at $18 and $20 million, that's basically half of Mookie Betts right there. So they would be more than happy to get rid of even, 50% of Jansen's contract and get rid of him, and then bring up enough room for their salary to then acquire somebody better like a Mookie Betts. They will be more than happy to do that. They also have to be able to pay people like Walker Buehler, who's going to be entering arbitration for the first time, and he's expected to make $7.3 million. So the Dodgers are looking at their whole entire situation, and even with losing people like Kiki and Justin Turner, which is over $20 million of contract lost, they're gaining $7 million of contract because of arbitration. So the Dodgers need space. They are more than willing to move a high-end player right now to get some contract space, which is why they were interested in getting rid of Jock Peterson. That's why the Jock Peterson trade almost happened, because they don't want to pay him $14 million and then $18 million. They don't want to do that. And I think that might be, that's an extension that happened in our fictional world. I don't think they've actually extended him in real life. I think he's a free agent at the end of the year. But still, $14 million for Jock Peterson? I know some people who would say that's a good steal. He's actually a very good hitter. But over Mookie Betts, I know the Dodgers in real life got Mookie Betts. All right, I understand that. But the money the Dodgers have to manage to keep open for Mookie Betts in real life is going to influence their trading options. And that's probably why they were more than willing to get rid of Jock Peterson, was because they want to sign Mookie Betts to a long-term deal. So it'll be interesting to see if the Dodgers actually get away with that, if they can actually do that in real life and sign Mookie Betts to a long-term contract, or if he'll go to free agency. So yeah, I don't know why they signed Peterson till he's 35. In our version of the game, that's really bad. They also got Grandal till he's 36. So the Dodgers made some really, in my opinion, they made some very bad contract decisions, because those two contracts, nobody's going to pick up those two players. Those players are going to be Dodgers until they retire, basically. So the Dodgers are setting themselves up for some really bad decision-making. Especially since Bellinger is going to be making ludicrous money as soon as he gets out of arbitration. That's just going to be a pain. Seager's going to make $15 million in arbitration. That's just bad. Yeah, 24 for Grandal is pretty steep too. So there's other issues that the Dodgers have. But swinging back into trades, you as a player can use that to your advantage. You can look for teams that are needing to shovel off payroll. All right? So, for example, I think the Rangers would be someone that I think you'd want to do that with. Any of the rebuilding teams, if you find a rebuilding squad, like the White Sox, the Royals, the Miami Marlins, the Tigers, if they have an aging veteran who's still really, really good, you can probably make a really good deal to be able to acquire some players that are going to perform very well on your squad. But maybe if they're willing to retain some of that contract, you don't have to pay them the full amount, and you can get the player for the amount of money they're worth. Like in Moneyball, if anyone's actually watched Moneyball, you'll notice that David Justice was acquired from the Yankees to the Oakland A's in that movie. And in real life, he was too. But the Yankees covered, I think it was like 50% of his contract. More, I think. I think it was like 70% of his contract. Because the A's were only willing to pay for what David Justice was at that time. They knew they weren't going to be able to, well, first of all, they couldn't afford full contract David Justice. But they also were shrewd in making sure they only paid for what the player was worth at that point of time. So don't acquire an aging veteran without getting the worth of the player with the retainment of their contract. Get the best possible value you can for players. All right? All right. We're all over the place, but that's okay. So how to get your targets. So unfortunately, the best way to get your targets and to get people that you're interested in is actually to go literally to the list all MLB players section. All right? Yes, the Yankees were paying more to get them off the roster and play against them. And that's how it happens for a lot of teams. Teams are willing to pay to have them play against them. Yeah. That was a good line. Yeah, that really was. That was the line of yeah, that's true. That is true. So this is what I normally do when I look for players that I'm interested in. So most of the time, if it's a position that I'm interested in, so let's say third base. All right. You're looking for a third baseman in the major leagues. Okay. Now you can do just the majors, sort it by third base, and you get, of course, all of your third basemen. Okay. You can absolutely do that. Now, you may want to look at including minor leaguers, though, so that way, as you look through the third basemen, you can start to see there are going to be a few minor league prospects that maybe you need to be interested in. And, of course, we already have Nick Senzel for our squad, but Andrew Vaughn is one of the people that I'm interested in. Nolan Gorman is one of the people I'm interested in. Brady House, I think, is a prospect. He's considered a draft pick person, so he's not available. But Carter Kieboom, another person that I was interested in. So you've seen I've shortlisted these guys. I've been looking through these lists, and I've been like, okay, these people I would actually be okay with playing third base for me, and if we had an opportunity to trade for them and I had time, I would make offers. I would actually look into giving them an offer to play third base for us, and we would see if it would work. Now, you can also apply filters to your search lists to make sure that you're only seeing people that, have the potential that you want. If you want them to be at least 2.5 stars, now it only makes it to be 17 pages. If it's a third baseman, I would also include the player's arm, because you need to be able to play that position. So infield arm, it's got to be at least 55, I would say. And that brings us down to 15 players. I could probably go higher than that. Let's make it 60. Let's make it 60 and 3 stars. Now you're talking about only 67 players. 67 players, and we want to go ahead and say, all right, there are some people that we're not going to be able to acquire. Alex Bregman, Rafael Devers, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., Rendon, Arenado, Bryant, Chapman, Moncada, Senzel. We're not getting those guys. All right? That's not happening. So, best way to be able to get rid of them? Add an age gap. You say it can't be greater... it has to be less than, let's say, 25. No, not 245, 25. Now we only have 40 players. That's pretty good. We still have people like Devers and Guerrero Jr., but this gives us our best shot at finding players that are actually a good fit for us. And technically, I need to get rid of these draft pick people. So we're going to say organization is not blank. If I can do that. Hold on. Do I have to say something else? Team? Can I do team is not blank? No. Okay, bummer. I was about to say, I want to get rid of the draft pick people, because those I don't really need to care about. We're not going to worry about them. But, oh well. I can't get rid of that yet. I'll have to ask Matt how best to get rid of those. But you can see there are some people that are out there that could be excellent prospects. Like Ramirez here is an excellent prospect. Now, again, that was OSA. This is our head scout version of him, so not as good. But still, that's a good way to find somebody that maybe is in the bottom of a prospect's barrel, and hey, maybe that's a pretty good way of doing that. Contract unsigned. Let's try that. Yeah, that's true. Maybe if I do. Let's see. You're talking about. Let's see. I want to get rid of draft picks. I don't know how to be able to do that, unfortunately. I think that works, but I'm not sure if that worked or not. But either way, That's interesting. I'll have to look that up later. But this is a pretty decent list right here of people that would potentially fill our need. And this is a great way to be able to find players quickly. If you don't want to go, scouring through all of the teams in MLB to be able to find somebody that you're looking for, use the MLB player list or the find a player and be able to find somebody very quickly. Of course, you can always just do it right here as well if you know what you're looking for, okay? If you know what you're looking for, you're not just generally looking for players to acquire. If you know exactly what you're looking for, you want, all right, minor leagues, maybe we'll do hitters, minor leagues, age 16 to 25. Want them to be third base. No. It could be 1.5, but we want at least 3 stars. Yep, we want at least that. That's fine. That's good. Personality, that's fine. I don't care if they've won an award. You can go through all of this and be able to, really narrow down exactly what you're looking for and get the players on the list that you're looking for at that point. So, Vientos might be someone that we might be interested in. So, the Mets have Mark Vientos. He's currently in Single A. He hasn't done a very good job in Single A at this point. He just got out of the rookie system back in 2018. But he's got very good ability to play third base, has played a little bit of shortstop. Not a bad player at all. I might even add him to our short list. Yeah, it's not bad at all. This is somebody that you can acquire relatively cheaply, too. If we could trade for him, make it work now. Whoa, okay, never mind. No, we can't trade for him cheaply. The Mets are not interested in getting rid of Vientos at the moment. Okay, good to know. Good to know that they value him much more than I thought they would. But that's a great way to be able to go through and find people that you can try to acquire via trade. If you're looking to do that, that's a great way to be able to do that. Groshans here is another option for us. So if we can't get one, we go with another one. There we go. So the Toronto Blue Jays are in rebuilding mode. So the difference between what I gotta remember who that team was now. Who was the other team that we had involved? Vientos was the Mets. That's right. So the Mets are trying to win now. The Mets are in playoff mode contention. The Blue Jays are in rebuilding mode. So looking at how the teams are currently situated in the league is also going to be something you're going to want to look at, because you want to be able to see what teams are going to give you players in order to rebuild faster. Now, technically, the better example would be that the Blue Jays are going to give you more of their MLB-ready players for prospects to rebuild with, or they're aging veterans. They're going to give you people like Cameron Maybin for, free. Because he's 33 years of age. He's getting $1.5 million, but they don't really need him. So they probably would add him on for, peanuts at this point. I'm pretty sure you could get him for little to nothing. So here's an interesting kind of a deal right here. You could probably get away with a whole bunch of stuff with this team because they're in a rebuilding mode. You could probably get Amir Garrett back. You could probably get... you might be able to get... No, Gary L. Jr. is too good, and he's only 26. So the unfortunate part is that Toronto doesn't really have a whole bunch of aging veterans. They've got a couple, but that's about it. So you're going to also want to be aware of what a team has and doesn't have in terms of people to acquire. Grichuk would have been the better person to acquire, as well as Jose Abreu. They probably would have gotten rid of them for very limited return value because of the contract value of Abreu, his ability to perform on the field. You could probably get Abreu for pretty dirt cheap if you wanted to. Just depends on what you would offer at that point. For this league, we are using default trade difficulty levels. So I guess I should talk about that really fast. So we've kind of covered a little bit about how to find players. You're going to have to go searching through the league. Best way to do that is to use the search tools we have, be able to identify the players you're interested in, and then we'll talk a little bit in a second here about how to actually negotiate correctly and get those players. And that actually brings us into trade difficulty levels and how to understand the AI's evaluation and value. So you guys are actually keeping me on pace, so that's good. So there is a whole entire settings section for trades, all right? It's called AI settings. If you go to game settings, and then go to the AI settings tab, this is what you're going to see. Now, we're using defaults. And I wanted to use defaults with Rich because it's his first time doing a franchise on our streaming system. So this is the first time Rich Grisham and I have been doing something. First time Rich Grisham has actually been doing a franchise live on our Twitch channel. So I wanted to do defaults. I wanted to give him the default game experience. Here is my recommendation. If you have played OOTP for more than 50 hours of time, the trading difficulty should be at least hard. All right? Because average is easy, okay? And easy is fleece everybody. And then very easy is, why the heck do you just not turn commissioner mode on? Please, just turn commissioner mode on and just take everything. That's what very easy mode is, all right? If you're going to do average, that's to learn, okay? Use average when you want to learn how to do the trading system, understand the trades, and then be able to still get, the benefit of the doubt with trades. That's going to be average. You should be doing hard. If you're a veteran player, hard or very hard are going to be the settings you want to do, because otherwise it is still fairly easy to fleece the team on average, all right? It is. Now, for some people, they don't know the ins and outs and the tricks and everything, and it's not as easy. But if you know how to manipulate the trade system to be able to get the most out of it, like I know how to, if you guys have seen any of the trades we've done in the Rich's Red series, the big Rich machine, you'll know that I've been getting away with a good amount of really good trades. All right, like some stuff that would never be accepted in real life are being done, and partially it's because some of the prospects are not 2020 versions of prospects. Like Luis Robert is not 2020 Luis Robert. That's 2019 preseason Luis Robert. That is not the superstar Luis Robert we all have expected to see today. That is right before he hit that cusp. But even just that trade with Madrigal and Luis Robert, basically for Mike Moustakas, that was still a really, really good deal and probably wouldn't be accepted in real life today just because Moustakas is not valued that much. Even though it does give the White Sox a good chance to win right now, and they needed that. They definitely needed that. But some trades, yes, would not be accepted today. Also, if you're a veteran of OOTP, and even if you're getting started with OOTP, I highly recommend making the trading preference either favor prospects or heavily favor prospects. You do not want the AI valuing veterans. Because that's when you're going to start to get those really, really bad deals in your inbox of like, hey, I've got a 37-year-old relief pitcher I'd like to give to you for your 25-year-old 3-star prospect. Like, what? Okay, I like that, you're trying to do trades, but at least do trades that actually work, okay? So if you make these trading preferences into favoring prospects and even heavily favoring prospects, you're going to see much more realistic deals in your game, all right? Neutral isn't terrible. I say that with a grain of salt. It's not terrible. It's stomachable. It's good enough. And it's actually not that bad if you understand what the AI is trying to do, and potentially it's because of the way you've set up your trade offers or what you're looking for. You can see some trades that are actually not that bad, but you definitely want to make it favoring prospects. That's just going to get you much more understandable trades. You're going to agree with more of them, and you're not going to be scratching your head. Exactly, Yordle. Watching the breaking news of the AI trading amongst themselves with fleecings, and it's just kind of like, why? For example, the Dodgers traded away Ruiz, Yadier Alvarez, Matt Cogan, Simon Laundrie, and John Rooney for Ken Giles. Ken Giles, all right? And I'm not going to say Giles has been bad. The Dodgers needed a closer, but I don't think that even I would make a deal for Ken Giles with that much involved, okay? Like, that's a lot for just a relief pitching closer who's 29 years of age and is getting paid $10 million. Like, the Dodgers kind of shot themselves in the foot right there, because Ruiz is a like top tier catcher, 32 overall prospect, 4-star catching prospect. He was someone that we were interested in. So the Blue Jays are definitely rebuilding. They traded away one of their best relief pitchers. In fact, probably the best relief pitcher. Maybe potentially one of the best relief pitchers in the American League, unfortunately, for a good prospect. But I don't think that's a good deal. That's where, if you had heavily favored prospects turned on, Ruiz gets a whole lot more of a return for that kind of a deal. All right? So that's where you're going to start to see some deals that don't make sense and some that do make sense. And it's good just to have that turned on so that way you can kind of see some better deals that make more sense. You're going to notice a whole bunch of stuff that makes more sense at that point. All right? Like this deal right here, Dodgers trading away Ross Stripling for David Fletcher and Micah Miniard. I mean, Fletcher by himself is worth a couple of good players. So the Dodgers have done a good job. They've been fleeced, and they have fleeced. So it goes both ways. But turn that on, turn that setting to favor prospects or even heavily favor prospects, and you will see better returns and results in your league. All right. We also need to talk about the evaluation settings while we're back there. So let me go back to AI settings. So right down below that player trade area, this is going to be how the AI values players, okay? And understanding what this does to your league is important, vitally important. So, for example, if we change some stuff and become really drastic, if we go super drastic on stuff, you're going to start to see that some players are going to be given much higher priority in terms of what teams are willing to trade for them. Let me see if I can get a better example of that. Let's see. Player trade, top player. Let's see what we can get for Sonny Gray now. With it based off of the particular season that they're in, Ketel Marte, that's a good deal right there. Kyle Wright, that wouldn't be bad. Zach Wheeler and Rodriguez. Andrew Vaughn's a good option. Francisco Lindor is a good option. And I'm pretty sure I would not get a Lindor for a Gray deal right off the bat. Let me see if I can do that without that option turned on. I don't know if this actually will work or not. I don't know. Let's see. What happens if we go to just 100% ratings weight? This is where the science part comes in, guys. So let's go back to shop a player. We'll put Gray back on, and we'll see if there's major changes that happen because of that. Okay, I don't see Marte anymore. Yeah, I don't see the Lindor anymore. So when you change those evaluation settings, what you're going to get in return for players is going to drastically change. All right? As you make adjustments to those, it will change what the AI values and what it will be willing to give you for a particular player. All right? Now, we could still go get Ohtani. That wouldn't be too bad. You know, Ohtani now is considered a 5-star by OSA. Our head scout thinks he's 4 stars. Not that bad. And, you know, as players get adjustments over the course of the season, if we do that, we run a full scout of everybody at this point. Still going to do the same thing for Gray at the moment because the control is just not quite there still. But, yeah, as you make changes to that setting area for the player evaluations, for what the AI has for player evaluations, that will change what your trades look like, all right? So if you want the AI to value your ratings 100% or, you know, spacing it out, of course, you shouldn't do 100%, 0, 0, 0. It should be a spaced out of 100%. It needs to be all adding up to 100%, otherwise it'll recalculate it. But you're going to want to have some kind of a setup, you know, amount that you feel comfortable with. And this will change depending upon the person that you are and kind of what you're looking for. So for each person, this is going to be a little bit different. Don't feel bad about experimenting and trying stuff out. Don't feel bad about doing that, all right? Personally, I try to keep it around 50 for the ratings, I feel like as if the ratings should be half of a player's value. Half of a player's, evaluation should be based on how good we think their ability to play baseball is, and then the rest of their ability should be based on the statistics that they actually perform at. All right? I think we had this at 55% because we had dropped it down from 65%. And I'm pretty sure it was then 25, 15, 5, or I think it was 10, 5, or something like that. 30, 40, 50. No, 100% right there. Yeah. So that's what we had it at for our league. We have it at 55, 25, 15, 5. Again, you can change this to whatever you'd like in your game. You can adjust that to be kind of more targeted towards what you'd like for your particular game. If it was me, I would do this, do that. I would probably do 50 and 30. That's kind of what I would probably be going for right about there. And then let's do, if I can do one last shop a player by any chance. I don't think I can. Hold on. I might have to simulate the day real fast. There we go. So if we then go ahead and shop Sonny Gray, let's see what we'll get for him now. So Wright's still on the list. I don't see Lindor, but I do see some pretty good people. So as you make adjustments to those settings, you're going to see different returns and different values that the AI has regarding the players that you're involving, all right? That's just a way that you can be able to adjust and get the game to the place that you want it to be at versus making it just stay at default, basically. Okay, let me run through the last couple of items, just the last couple of points, and then we will end the stream and you guys can go on your ways for this Saturday. So, this shop a player screen is going to be your best friend. Now, there is a problem. There is a problem. You may have noticed that we just offered up Sonny Gray 3 times to what is basically the open market. We basically called everybody and the press and told them, hey, Sonny Gray needs to be traded. What would you give us for him? And as you can see, his transaction morale is now unhappy. All right? So when you do a shop a player, it's going to hurt your happiness. All right? The morale of the player you're shopping will tank. All right? So don't shop a player randomly. Don't just go throwing people out there because you want to see. Don't go to that page and say, hey, what if I offered Mookie Betts and Sonny Gray, my 2 most important players, and I want to offer them, and I want to work on this for like the next 3 hours, and I want to see what I can do. You're going to kill your morale because those 2 players are your most important people, and when they start to get unhappy, the entire clubhouse is going to be unhappy. So don't do that. Only do the shop a player when you know it's a player that you're interested in getting rid of, all right? So we already know, for us, for our example, Thairo Estrada. Estrada is the one person that we're interested in getting rid of. All right? Shop him. Because if you are dead set on getting rid of somebody, you need to follow through. You need to follow through with the trade, okay? You can't shop a player and then expect to not have any repercussions because, yeah, exactly. It's basically shopping a player equals Ken Rosenthal reporting it nationwide. The player is going to get traded. You know, this is going to happen, most likely. Don't do that to your starters. Don't do that to your most important people who then immediately turn around and affect the rest of your ball club. Don't do that. All right? Now, we can still utilize the shop a player. I'm not saying you can't use it, but only use it for players you know you're getting rid of to be able to get a good read on their value. All right? For example, when I got started with my trade options for our Rich's Red machine, I ended up shopping around Thairo Estrada and Adames. So Adames did take a morale hit. I think if I went back to our new simulation, he probably is like normal on transactions because he got involved in a couple different trade options. And I'm pretty sure I shopped him at least once. But it was good. It was good for me to be able to go around to every single team. You know, I'm looking on the list right now and be able to say, oh, okay, I could pick up Omar Narvaez or Dan Vogelbach 1-for-1 for Thairo Estrada. That's not bad. That's actually not a bad deal. A starting catcher for a backup infielder, that's pretty good of a deal. And this is even with the updated settings. This is even with me changing the settings to reflect what I would be doing in my personal game. You got Clark Schmidt from the Yankees. That's not a bad pickup. Now, it's not my head scouts version of Clark Schmidt, but it's not bad. Ryan McMahon's on my list here. You've got Kasowski, but he's a relief pitcher. I'm not very interested in relief pitchers. But you've got Josh James, another relief pitcher, of course. But you can see we've got Michael Kopech on the list. Dylan Cease is on the list. We have Mountcastle. We've got Austin Riley. You've got some pretty interesting players that are available to pick up. Even Dalton Varsho's on this list somehow. Varsho's considered a pretty decent prospect for the D-backs. So when you use the Shop a Player now, it's a great way to be able to kind of gauge how much of a return you could get. So that way when you go to your initiate trade option, you can get the best deal out of a player versus just throwing them in to make a deal work. So let's just say, for example, hey, we were working on this deal with the Marlins, and we want Castellani, Garrett, and Brigman. We're offering them a couple of no-name prospects. Make it work now. Oh, that's a pretty good list. Hey, we don't need Estrada. He's our backup utility guy. You add him to the trade. Well, hold on a second. Your assistant GM says this does not make much sense, and here's why. You could trade Estrada probably by himself and make that deal work. Okay? That's a perfect example right there. You don't even need to give away the other people involved in that deal to make this trade work. So don't get rid of a person for free, because the game can do that on you, where you're like, oh, they want, a decent prospect player or a decent person to make this deal work. I'll add this person. But then you don't realize that makes it way lopsided in their favor. But it makes the trade work. But it's not a good deal for you. You need to barter back and forth. So once you've identified who you're okay with getting rid of, try to get a read on how much value that player has. So, for example, Blade is way too good for Thero Estrada. But the text is also important to understand when the GM of the other team says something like this right here. Not a good deal for us. If that's the best you offer, if that's the best you have to offer, I guess we don't have anything to talk about. That's a pretty hard no. But it's not a, is this an insult kind of a response. If it's not a, this is an insult, I'm very upset, don't get back to me about this, then you have options. Boom. Yusniel Diaz, Thero Estrada, you get JJ Bleday. Now, again, we're not getting much in return, says our assistant GM. So now we have to fiddle with every little detail. Maybe we bring back in Bryson Brigman. Okay, now we get a free additional shortstop prospect in the deal. That's not too bad. We can get along with that. High work ethic, low greed. It's an instant free pickup. So add him. All right, maybe we do Banfield. No, okay, that's an insult. All right, Banfield is way too valuable, mostly because of his fielding abilities. So that's a no-no. Don't add Banfield again, all right? So we'll take him off the list. He's not available. They really like Banfield. So what if we did somebody like, let's try Cepedez? That's not a fair deal. You have to offer us some more. Okay, now we go and make it work again. Probably asking for too much at this point. You're probably stretching a little bit too far. Bladay's a pretty good prospect in and of himself, but let's see about Castellani. Not quite enough. All right, this is when you're getting close. When you start to see the not quite enough, that means it's almost good enough. At that point, you can still see they're still asking for a lot, but Cash Case isn't a bad person to add to a deal. He's not exactly a very high-end prospect, so that would actually be okay. At least in my opinion, it would be okay. So now you're getting Ryan Castellani, you're getting JJ Bleday, who's a very good prospect, and you're getting Bryson Brigman, who's a very decent replacement to Thero Estrada. Again, what you're trying to do is, if you're going to have players leave, you need depth to fill a position if it's, not a good depth position. We ended up making moves because we had the depth, but if you didn't have a backup prospect shortstop and you could get someone like Brigman here, this isn't a bad deal because Brigman could. I mean, I don't think you're going to play him at shortstop because of that arm. That arm is terrible. So he's really a second base prospect. But that hitting very well resembles Estrada. So that's a 1-for-1 deal I'd be okay with, and they would give us Brigman for Estrada without any problem because he's not an actual shortstop. So if you can get Bleday and Brigman, this is actually a pretty good deal. Now, it depends on, what you're filling, because Bleday isn't ready for the big leagues for another probably 2 years. And you're taking a real big run on a prospect who's only 3 stars. So you got to be careful what you're doing, especially with the Miami Marlins because they're already in rebuild mode. They already are. But if we go back to the settings, we put that back to neutral, and we say go back to average, and we put that back to what it was when I was working with the trades, because that's how we did our trades. Let's see if that changes stuff. Now there's a lot to like in this offer for me. Okay, now he loves the deal. So let's see if we can add some people back onto the list. That's a good deal. Okay, do you see just a little bit now about how much you can get away with? Now we can add Victor Mesa to the deal. What about Sixto Sanchez? Could we have Sixto Sanchez? Worst offer in his entire career. Okay, all right. We can't get away with the murder and get away with it. Okay, so we can't do that. Can't do that. But you guys can see where just even 1 or 2 ticks in those settings can change immensely how a team values an entire trade. Let's do this trade again. There's a lot to like in this offer. Dave Littlefield doesn't even like it. He thinks we're not getting enough back. I agree. If we go back to the settings, go back to the AI settings, and we change this to heavily favor prospects, this may change that. This is close to being fair. So instead of it being an outright, absolutely love it, we're going to take it, just even changing it from neutral, to heavily favor prospects means that Victor Mesa and JJ Bleday have so much more value to them, the AI won't make this deal. Because in real life, if you offered Yusniel Diaz and Thero Estrada and Cash Case for Bleday and Victor, you'd be laughed at. You'd be absolutely laughed at. So that's just an example of how you can make those work with the heavily favored prospects versus heavily favored veterans. But it's also a good way to be able to kind of gauge the value of certain players. So you can see that there's different statements you're going to get for different, tiers of how far off you are with the opposing GM. So once you start to recognize, what those mean, like close to being fair, not quite close, those are like, hey, you're only maybe one or two players off. Maybe just a minor prospect is all you need. So for this one right here, maybe it's just a minor prospect. Maybe we offer them Miguel Bautista or Mariel Bautista. That suddenly makes it work. Now, our assistant GM doesn't like it, but at the same time, I would like this deal. You're getting a center field swap with Victor Mesa and Yusniel Diaz. That's a good deal. You're getting Bryson Brigman for basically Thero Estrada and Cash Case, which is not a good deal. But you're getting JJ Bleday for Mariel Bautista, which is a good deal. And there's Megas. There's no morale penalty when you work through the screen. So you can add people and take people off as much as you want. No one's going to be unhappy because this is all private conversations with other AI, other general managers. So if you have the time, tinker with this stuff in the initiate trade screen. The shop a player now is just to gauge not only interest, but value of a player. Do I believe this trade right here is realistic? No. But that's with the understanding of what Bleday is considered today. Now, if I look at it through the lens of 2019, with last year's game, because this is an imported OOTP 20 game, this is at best, 3-star prospect right here. Because the power is too low. I think Bleday has more power in OOTP 21. This is what our head scout thinks of Bleday, guys. This is what our head scout thinks of the number 35 overall prospect, Bleday. He can only play right field. He's not a center fielder. You're not going to put him out in left. This is the right fielder for life. 22 years of age. He bats left. I like that. He throws left. I'm okay with that. He's had a little bit of time in single A plus. He has not done great. He's below average. He does not have a lot of speed. He's average on the speed. He's average on contact. A lot of his stuff is average. At best, OSA. He's a good right fielder, good gap power hitter, but this looks like it's just above average, in my opinion. Just above average for a good starter, okay? This isn't going to be somebody that's going to be the headliner of a baseball team. Bleday is going to be the person who backs up a headliner of a baseball team. This is the guy who bats either in front or behind Mookie Betts, probably in front of Mookie Betts, to keep people, to pitch to him, and then he gets better results. Now, Thero Estrada, Yusniel Diaz, yeah, definitely still in favor of getting Bleday over those two guys. Even if you put in Cash Kids of his ability to play pretty decent second base, he's got some decent speed. He's done well in the rookie ball system, but he's a pretty average hitter. And then Batista is interesting. He's batting. He's had really good performances in minor leagues, and I think, if I remember correctly, he played some minor leagues in our next simulation. But if you're asking me if I think this trade is realistic, it's probably still not. But we did change this, didn't we? This is still changed. I mean, yeah, if you're going to do what I would do hard, and I would do 50, 30. So if it's what I would be playing OTP at, this is what I'd be playing it at right here. If you go back to that initiate trade, now he considers it almost an insult, okay? So the minute that you make it hard versus average, now we have to add somebody good to make this deal work. So that's the difference between the difficulty being set to average versus being set to hard. The minute you make that kind of a deal, that kind of a difference, now we're having to add somebody really good. Like Callahan's prospect number 39. Bishop is prospect number. Oh, he's not actually a prospect number, but he's really good. He's already batting 368. So the difference is huge. It's a big difference when you go from just one setting to the next. And that's why it becomes much more realistic. A lot of people, if you offer them, technically I would offer Feltman in that regard. For this deal right here, I would offer Feltman or I'd offer Jimenez because those are the two people. Actually, no, Herget. I would offer Herget because I don't need a 3.5 star relief pitcher. I don't need even this. I don't need that. That's okay. I've got plenty of relief pitchers. Although the Marlins are renowned for making good relief pitchers, so that would probably be a bad trade down the road with Herbst becoming a 5-star kind of pitcher. But even this trade right here is a little bit lopsided in our favor because Diaz and Estrada just aren't going to produce the same way that a fully developed Bleday and a fully developed Victor Mesa could perform for the Marlins. It would still be a bad deal in the long haul. The reason why the Marlins are okay with doing that is because they need to put a field on the team right now. Estrada and Diaz instantly are starters for them. Herget's a starter in the relief situation, and then Batista and Case are just additional depth in the minor league systems. So they'll take those three to be able to put them on the field because they're all young too. I mean, you're talking about 23-year-old Yusniel Diaz, 23-year-old Diaz, 24-year-old Estrada. Estrada's got at least another 10, 12 years left on his MLB playing time. So, that's just how it is. And again, yeah, the reason why they're 3 stars is because they're basically borderline star prospects. 2019 MLB, 20 or OTP 20 didn't have Bleday as highly valued as we have him today. All right, Victor Mesa, didn't play anything besides AAA last year, I think, and he hasn't. The value of these two players in this trade especially are not as highly valued as they are today. So you aren't going to get, 2020 Victor Mesa. You're not going to get 2020 Bleday. You're getting 2019 versions of these two guys, which is also why I think our trade with the White Sox actually managed to get pulled off. Because in the end, we didn't get, extremely developed Madrigal. We got, just starting to come into his prime as a prospect, Madrigal. If I can get back to that deal really fast here. Where is that White Sox deal? Where is that one? Where's Chicago White Sox? Where are you guys? Where did they go? I know they're someplace. Am I just not seeing it? Hold on. Hold on. I should know. I should know where this is. Where is this? Pilar, Bishop, Lugo, Reyes. Where's our White Sox deal? Am I just blind and not seeing it? Oh, it's on the right side because I would be trading away people to get this deal to work. Hold on. Hold on. I bet you I'm looking at it wrong. There it is. I'm seeing it there. There we go. So this deal is definitely in our favor, regardless of how you want to view Robert and Madrigal. Tyler Johnson and Ian Hamilton are just add-on relief pitchers. They aren't valued that much by the AI, okay? Even though we might look at them and go, wow, those are really good players. You can get these guys almost anywhere, all right? These kinds of relief pitchers, they'll pop up in the draft all over the place. You can grab these kind of guys easy peasy, all right? Don't put much stock into relief pitchers because they will come and go all over the place. This is what we were interested in seeing, though, because Madrigal is still considered very good. Our head scout, not as high on him, and he's still a really good prospect. So I'm still interested into why they were willing to do that. But here's the big one. Here's the big reason why I think the White Sox were okay with making this deal work is because Robert is not, or Robert is not, by our head scout at least, he is nowhere close to what we think of Robert today. All right? And again, this is where you have 2019 Robert, which is OOTP 20 Robert basically, versus 21 Robert, which is, I think, 4 stars, almost fully developed, very, very good prospect, or at least AAA ready prospect. So I think that's why the White Sox were willing to make that kind of a deal. We gave them Fairbanks as well, so we gave them a relief pitcher who was pretty much ready to go as well. We gave them Alex Guerrero, who's actually a pretty decent catching prospect, good hitting ability, good catching enough ability. And then we also gave them, of course, we gave them Moustakas in that deal. And we had Moustakas at a really good prorated rate. Oh, and I forgot that we gave them Liley. Liley's not bad either. That's actually a pretty decent starting pitching prospect. I'm surprised the control movement's a bit low, but interesting. But then, of course, the bigger part of that deal was getting rid of Moustakas. We believe Moustakas to be really, really good. He's a good fielder. He's a fan favorite. He brings people to the ballpark, and he's cheap at $9 million. He's not expensive, and he's signed for a long period of time. So I can understand how the White Sox wanted to get something to increase their ability immediately. I think that we definitely still got away with a lot with that trade. But you guys noticed how our settings, if you change even just a little bit of the settings, it changes extremely quickly how a team reacts to your offers. So most likely than not, that's what happened, is that we had the settings too low to begin our whole entire franchise, and that's just because I wanted to have Rich get an understanding of the default game before we then kick the level of hard, the level up to hard, because that changes a whole lot of the game. It becomes so much harder when you have to put it on hard difficulty and then heavily favor prospects, or even just favor prospects. It becomes so much more harder to make trades work. Okay, I think that's enough for today. We've been streaming for 2 hours, ladies and gentlemen. I didn't even take a break this time. I'm so sorry that went so long. I'll try not to go longer than an hour for here on out. But there's a lot that you can talk about trading in terms of basically increasing your ability to make trades and then understanding how the game does trades. We could talk for a day on just trading. But I hope that you guys were able to get some information from the stream to be able to kind of understand how to get started and just kind of how to get the understanding of the game and how to value stuff. So try to use that to your best ability when it comes to different areas of the game you're trying to get, all right? Because that's going to help you so much, and at the end of the day, I hope that you guys are less frustrated when a team doesn't like a trade that you think that they would have liked, and you don't know why. Because maybe there's some things you're not looking into. Maybe there's contracts you're not aware of. Maybe there's other things that you're not, just not noticing that's involved in the deal, and it's causing a problem. And if you just, add some money onto your side or retain a contract or offer a player that they actually badly want. A lot of people who offered us good deals for Estrada needed a starting shortstop. That's what I noticed. A lot of people that we traded with didn't have good shortstop options. I think we ended up trading Estrada to the Braves, and right now they have two shortstops that are both below average, Swanson and Hechavarria, and I'm pretty sure Estrada will be starting shortstop for them for the rest of the season and potentially for the next couple of years. So when you start to notice that you have bench players that would be starting on other teams, maybe dangle them around, see if someone will take an offer for that. So that'll be it for today's stream, guys. I'm sorry that ran so long, but again, we could be talking all day about stuff like that. It easily could be a full day discussion about trades and everything else. But I do hope you guys got to manage to get some information from this, glean some nice stuff from different settings and different ways to go about doing trades. And I'll probably do more demonstrations of trading down the road. We'll talk about that kind of stuff on other streams and just demonstrate how the process of getting trades happens for me. But for now, guys, that's going to be it for the day. We will wrap up on the 2-hour mark and just hope and pray that all this made some sense to some of you guys, that you guys got something from it. All right. Anywho, I'm out, guys. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for being here for the Saturday streams. And we'll be continuing our league creation classes next week. We'll be finishing up settings, and then we're going to jump into creating different types of leagues and showing them off as examples. And then homework for next week is going to be creating bigger and bigger leagues and more unique leagues. And then we're going to get started on building our viewer-created custom league that all of you will be able to have custom input on starting next week with, team names, logos, everything. We'll have it all be available for you guys to help out with, and we'll see how creative you guys can be in the chat. All right, that's it for today, guys. Have a great rest of your Saturdays. I have been Alex, and I will see you all next time. Bye-bye.